for your patience. Here we come, Kimberly Akimbo. Come on out, everybody. Hi, everyone. This is Olivia. I'm Danny Mefford. I'm the choreographer of Kimberly Akimbo. We got a lot of stuff. And we have a lot of members of the cast here. We have Olivia Elise Hardy. We've got Bonnie Milligan. Yeah, that's Bonnie Milligan. Olivia Elise Hardy, Michael Iskander, and Nina White. Yes. Thank you. Kimberly Akimbo, in case you don't know, was at the Atlantic Theater. Yeah! In the fall of 2021, and is transferring to Broadway this fall at the Booth Theater, which it's been a lifelong goal of mine to have a show in the Booth, though I'm very, very excited about that. I think it's a very magical space. So for those of you who don't know, before I open it up to some questions and start moderating, I do want to give you a little description of the show. Kim, played by Victoria Clark, ever heard of her, is a bright and funny Jersey teen who happens to look like a 72-year-old lady. And yet her aging disease may be the least of her problems. Forced to maneuver family secrets, borderline personalities, and possible felony charges, Kim is determined to find happiness in a world where not even time is on her side. Okay, so that's our little blurb. So with that, I'm gonna ask people some questions. Okay? I want you to each tell me about your characters in the show without any spoilers. Okay?
Without any spoilers, okay. Well, I play Kim's Aunt Deborah, and I don't think it's a spoiler. She's a con artist lady who is a little complicated, and she comes in and shakes things up. That's where I'll leave it.
I play the character Delia. I'm one of the high schoolers. I'm also the leader of our show choir group. So my character is very bossy, is very trying to take the lead of everything and really wants us to go to nationals. So that's my character.
Hi, my name is Michael. I play Aaron. And Aaron has no idea what's going on. He's just like, yeah, I'm here. And you'll find out in the show, so go see it.
I play Teresa, Teresa is a lover. She's there. Teresa is a lover and a friend and a supporter. I would say, first and foremost, throughout. She's there to support Delia. She's there to support Kim.
Yeah.
She's a friend.
I love all that.
She's the sister I never had.
It's like she's just like a nice yes and girl. She's there for you. Yeah, for sure.
Teresa's down to clown.
She's down to clown for
Yes.
sure. Now, the other people in the show, just so you know, are Kim, the protagonist, played by Victoria Clark, Seth, who is her best friend in the school, played by Justin Cooley, who is also making his Broadway debut, along with three of the people up here today, Olivia, Michael, and Nina, all gonna make their Broadway debut. And then her parents are in it as well. Her parents, Buddy and Patty, played by Stephen Boyer, and Allie, I'm afraid I'm gonna say her name.
Mozzie.
Mozzie. I almost
like
said
Wicked here.
I know Mazzie, I almost said, and I was like, that's not right. Okay, so my next question is, this show takes place in the 90s. Tell me about your relationship to that decade.
I had not been born yet. That was like my childhood. So I grew up, I'm a 90s kid. So I love the 90s. It's a lot of nice throwbacks.
Well, I was born in 98. So, okay, somebody said, oh my god, just wait until you hear somebody born in the 2000s in this show. It'll blow your mind. But yeah, I was born in 98, so I don't know.
So when you think of the 90s, what do you think of?
I think of, oh, my socks actually have cat dog on them. So in the 90s, I think of cat dog. So I think of all the cartoons. I think of Tamagotchis. I had so many of those. I think of what are Frosted Tips? I think of that too. So I don't really remember much of the 90s. I have more of an early 2000s memory, but I love the 90s from what I can remember.
What about you, Michael?
In the 90s, I was -3 years old.
What year were you born?
I was born in 2001. So, 2000s, here in the crowd.
Nina?
I was also born in '98, so the '90s were pretty big for me. I was walking, I was eating solid foods for the first time in the '90s. Yes. So it's delightful to return in a more conscious state in Kimberly Akimbo. But I agree with Liv. Yeah, I was exposed to like '90s toys and '90s TV. Especially because I have older siblings. But yeah, I think of like bright colors.
I was a big fan of Sister Sister. I love
Yes.
Oh,
Like '90s fashion is coming back.
It's coming back.
How timely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Pre-cell phones. It's a very important facet of when our show takes place, I feel like.
That's right. That segues me into the next question perfectly, because one of the main reasons that they set this in the 90s is because that is when David Lindsay Abaire wrote the play originally that it is based on. And it was his belief, just so you know, he's not here to be on this panel himself, that he couldn't rewrite the story after that time because the story would never happen the way that it happened if people had had cell phones, especially if kids had had them. So it was very important to them that it took place in the 90s. Just FYI. So now, tell me the themes of Kimberly Akimbo. Tell me what the show is about. And I don't just mean the plot. I mean, like, how does it inspire you? How does it move you? All that.
I think for me, it was the first show that we were doing, coming back. I mean, we're still in the pandemic, but coming back to live theater and seeing the theme of like, we were not promised any certain amount of time. No one is. We don't know how long anyone is on this planet. And so choose to like have joy and choose to do things and don't hold back and make every moment count. And I think that was so important to people seeing it, that you're like, oh my gosh, because we have just been coming out of such a dark time to really like live for every day, you know?
I think the show is about a lot of love, about a lot, like love in a bunch of different ways, how it's not given, how it is given, how it's shifted, how it's falling in love, how it's falling out of love, how it's making decisions and the reasons why because of love. And I think that it shows the dynamics of love in a family that I feel like almost anybody can relate to in some way. And I think that's what makes it super special, because you feel that love, especially with I mean, we have an incredible cast, but the story shows the like concept of love very well, and I think in all of its forms very well too, which I really love about the show.
It's definitely about seizing the moment, regardless of whatever situation you're in. I think everybody can relate to the story in some way, and you'll come out with a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I also think it's such a beautiful portrait of teenagerhood. And I mean, we are not very far removed from teenagerhood, but a little bit. And it's such a time, like everything is so intense, and it's I feel like such a beautiful story about a teenage girl who's so loving and tender and hopeful, and you don't get that many of those shows, so that's so exciting to me. Yeah, and Carpe Diem, how you live your final days, for sure, is a huge message of the show, I feel.
I will say Nina has a teenage brother who did come to the show and was very like really taken back to like some of the high school hallway scenes and the dynamics. I was like, oh God, yes, that's true.
Yes, he was
It's
triggered
really
by
funny.
the high school dynamics, by Aaron in particular. I would say maybe he saw himself reflected back. It's keeping it real in terms of being a teenager in the show.
Okay, y'all. So talk to me. The show is both like a high comedy and like a very realistic story at the same time, with a lot of heartfelt emotions. Talk to me a little bit about finding the balance of those two things, and about how David Lindsay Abaire and Janine Tesori kind of wrote that, and you know what I mean, just as a jumping off point.
I think it's life, right? Like, life is funny and sad and scary and wonderful and all the things wrapped up in one. And he walks the line of tone so beautifully. I think what our approach as actors is that everybody came to it just from a place of truth. So you play it truthfully, you don't play it even over the top situations, which you'll see. I think if anybody saw the song yesterday, you can get a little inkling. The over the top things, if you commit to it with such real, what's the word I'm looking for?
Groundedness.
Yeah, groundedness and like, conviction that you're just like, I need this thing, that I think the comedy will naturally be there because that's how good the writing is. So that's just kind of our job, to just show up and do the work that is so brilliant and just, it soars itself.
I think it's like pretty intrinsic in human nature to find humor in a lot of things that are bad because it's a good coping mechanism in order to not, succumb to all of the other emotions that are going on. I mean, I think one of my favorite jokes that has come from the pandemic is everybody calling it everything but a pandemic. Like, oh, it's a panda bear. We're at a Pamela Anderson. This is, the third year of the Panda Express or something like that. It's so, like, I mean, you look around and you see people cracking jokes about anything and everything, whether they should, whether they should not. It's just a way that, people, cope. I mean, like, I've been at funerals where I've accidentally laughed because I didn't know what else to do. So, I mean, like, in a show like this, it's very human because you can't have a lot of tragedy without some sort of humor, because you wouldn't be able to get through it. There would be no getting to the end. It would be stopping somewhere in the middle because you can't find another outlet to keep going. And I think that's what makes this show so special, because it shows how real life works and how that's what you do when, you have to find a little bit of a silver lining in order to keep going.
And it's wildly funny. Oh my God, it's so funny.
So funny.
You better laugh.
I laugh every single time. Every
We're
night.
like, partially we're like, it's really sad. No, it's actually really wonderful.
It's really hilarious.
Come.
It's hilarious.
It is a very hilarious show.
It's hilarious.
So, y'all, I'm gonna. I'm sorry, I don't have COVID, I promise. They made me test to come up here, but I've got something stuck in my throat. So I want to talk a lot, for a little bit, about Broadway debuts, okay? I want to talk about life. I want to talk about what led you to this moment, all right?
Okay.
So the first question I have for you is, when did you first fall in love with theater?
I was 5. Well, I started doing dance and like jazz and dance recitals when I was 3, and then when I was 5, my mom put me in this like really small community theater production of like The Grasshopper and the Ant, and I played like Ant number 3, and I loved it, and I never stopped, and so I just kept doing theater camp after theater camp every year. There's not a summer, even now, there's not a summer where I have not been doing some sort of theater program, whether it was a college program, whether it was an intensive. So I just kept doing it. At one point, when I was around like 13, 14, that's when I met my agent. I was like in the right place at the right time. I've been signed to her ever since, and she got me this job.
Well, you got you this job.
I got me this job. She got me in the room, I guess I should say. So I did the Donna Summer Musical National Tour first, my junior year of college. And that got shut down, unfortunately, about 6 months into it because of COVID. So that was technically my first professional show, but this is my Broadway debut. And I got an email one day from my agent. She was like, seems interesting. Are you into it? And I was like, yeah, it says Janine Tesori. I'm totally interested. And so I showed up. I did the audition. I actually did not know that Nina was going to be in my audition. We went to school together. We graduated.
That we did.
And we had no clue that we were auditioning for the same show. And I texted in the group chat, I was like, hey, can I sleep on anyone's couch? Because I have an audition. And she was like, you can sleep on mine. So I got to her house and she was like, what are you auditioning for? And I said, oh, this new Janine Tesori show. She goes, I'll see you there. And I was like,
Yes. Liv stayed at my home
I did.
the night before. Our appointments, there was a little bit of time, so we didn't go to them together. But yeah.
And we had no clue we were on the same.
I'm very nosy, so I was like, what's the callback for? Why do you need to stay here? Yes.
No.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, and that's how I got here, and I'm very excited. I'm very happy. I love this show so much. I think this is like one of like my favorite shows that I've ever been a part of, if not my favorite show that I've ever been a part of. It's incredible. I love it so much. I got a tattoo for it. I wouldn't do that if I didn't love the show. So.
Guys, I'm gonna, sorry, Liv, but I'm gonna wrap us back to, when did you fall in love with theater?
I fell in love with theater 3 years ago. I actually didn't know much about theater, and growing up I like TV shows and movies, and I accidentally joined choir in my high school. I got $10 for joining or something, and then they were like, just
Got
audition.
$10 for joining choir?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I didn't actually like theater. I was like, what is this? They're singing and acting at the same time? Like, keep it separate. But then I did it. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I've done 4 shows in my life, one of which is a cop in Clue Junior. That's still on my resume, actually. And I went in the room. I didn't know who anybody was. I didn't know who Gene Tashori or David Lindsay Bear were, or you, or Bonnie, or anybody. And yeah, it was kind of crazy. But to me, I don't think it matters that it's on Broadway. Like, Broadway is really, really great. But to me, I think a good story can be a good story whether it's on a high school stage or an off-Broadway stage or a Broadway stage. And we're just so lucky to be telling this story on a Broadway stage for more people to see.
I thought that theater was very boring as well to begin with. I had always taken dance lessons since I was so small, and I wanted to be a dancer. And then, yeah, I did a youth theater thing in the 4th grade, and I remember thinking it was so boring. It was Honk Jr.
Oh, come on, Honk.
Honk is fierce. Honk is fierce, but I was not feeling it. I was one of the ducklings, and I was just like, there's so much standing around. And you don't stand around in dance class. So this isn't for me. But then a couple years later, I started doing some musical theater dance class things, and I was like, oh, well, that's fun and cool. And then I was like, well, let me check it out. And then I was like, oh, acting is so fun. I would like to continue to do this. And if you could get money to do acting, what could be better? And over time, it's taken a lot more meaning in terms of, I don't know, the way that I feel theater or TV or film functions culturally. I think it's so important, but it started with just thinking it was such a good time. I wanted to keep doing it.
It always started out as being fun.
It's great fun.
All right, so some of you answered this a little bit, but if anybody else wants to jump in there, let me know. Which is, I want to know what was going on in your life when you got the audition that led to your Broadway debut, as I like to call them.
What?
I think we kind of Olivia and Nina, we already got, you can answer again, but
Was that was in, everything was still kind of shut down at that time, so I wasn't doing anything. I'm from Philadelphia, so I was living in Philadelphia. Woo! Come on! Go Sixers! So yeah, I was living in Philadelphia. I actually just came up from the train from Philadelphia today. But I wasn't doing anything but, sitting in Philly, feeling historic. That's it.
Well, my Broadway debut was with Head Over Heels. That was a different story. I didn't audition for it. I was in an off Broadway play with no agent, no equity card, and while working there, Jeff Whitty, who originally wrote it all, saw me in the show, and he was friends with the director who was directing, and wrote Pamela with me in mind, which was amazing. So I got to do, thank you, I got to do the first reading, and I was in a room with all these like very fancy and Tony-nominated actors, and I still no equity card, no agent, and I thought, wow, what is happening? And I got to stay with the show, and it, you know, went out of town, and then they sort of started again with a whole new creative team, a whole new cast, but I got to stay. And so anyway, that was a very different journey. My audition for this was during the pandemic, and I was home in the Midwest, and my dad had just died, and they asked me to send in a tape like 2 days after, and I was like, I can't do that, no. So they're like, how about in 2 weeks? And I thought, well, I would love to work with this team, but you know, I don't know if anybody's experienced intense grief, but it can be really cloudy on your brain. And so I just could not memorize the material. And I kept trying, and I just thought, I'm gonna make a horrible tape, and I wanna work with these people, and I have to trust that if this is meant to be mine, they will give me more time. Because I think if I make a bad tape, they'll be like, oh, Bonnie Milligan will make a good one, and then I'll be like, ooh, that was bad, maybe she's trash. So you're like, I don't wanna do that. So I had a phone call with my agent, and I said, I'm just struggling right now. I would love this, but like I can't. So she went back to the team, and they very generously said, how about 2 more weeks? And I said, I think I can do that. And so it was literally like May of 2020. And I used my mom's encyclopedias to prop up my phone, and she was my reader. And, you know, I did like the first library scene where I meet everybody, and I sang Better to a track that my mom hit play on a computer across the room. And so that was my audition process, which felt so crazy.
Can I tell you from the other side that when we got her tape, we were all like, yep!
It was a very quick turnaround. It was like, you got it. And I'm like, what? Like, after like weeks of, I don't know if I can. And then I was like,
No, like we all watched it, and then we were like, yeah, a-ring-a-ding, yeah.
That was nice.
Anyway, you don't have to answer it.
No, I was actually just about to quit acting. I was trying for 2 years, and I didn't hear anything back. Actually, this was my first audition, but I didn't hear anything back for a while. And I was just about to quit. I was gonna go back to medicine. I worked in clinical research for a bit. And so I got a call from my agent. He's like, hey, Craig Burns wants you to send a tape for the show. I was like, Craig knows who I am? He's like, yeah, just send a tape. I'm like, okay. And it was like 25 pages worth of material for a bunch of different characters and like 4 songs. And then he was like, you gotta call back, just like do a Zoom. And I'm like, okay. And then I finished the Zoom, and he's like, okay, they wanna see you in New York. Do you wanna go? And I'm like, yeah, I wanna go. Yeah, just get me there. So I went in the audition room, and I didn't feel like I did well at all. I was like, this is it. And I'm on the plane back. I got the boarding pass on my phone. I'm showing it to the flight attendant, and I get a call. So I step out of the line. Everyone's looking at me like, who's this weirdo? And it's my agent. He's like, can you FaceTime me? I'm like, okay. So I go and sit down. Everyone's still looking at me. Who's this guy? When he step out of the line, and I get a call. He's like, congratulations, you got the role of Aaron in Kimberly Akimbo. And that's how it all started.
Yeah, mine, well, to be brief, was kind of a mix of Bonnie's, and I just got an agent, lit, but I'm very excited about that. But when I did this tape, it was because one of my classmates from school, I graduated in 2020 from college, from musical theater school, and one of my classmates who lived across the hall and was in my COVID pod got a self-tape for it, and he asked me if I'd be his reader, and I was like, of course. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I just was like, I know that no one at Telsey knows who I am at all. I'm graduating into the pandemic. I would love if I know I would do a good job on this material. I would love if I knew like somewhere on someone's computer, there's a video of me doing a good job on material that I know is right for me. And so I was like, who emailed that to you? And he gave me Craig's email address. So I said, hi, I'm Nina. I'd love to submit for this. And I didn't think he'd respond, but he did, and I taped for it in like May 2020. And I never heard anything, which is what I anticipated, because I wasn't like trying to book with my tape. And then over a year later, I was on a road trip. I was camping, and I found an email in my junk folder from Craig. Yes, check your junk mail. I had an email from Craig, like, hey, would love to see you tape again. And I was so shook. But yeah, so then I did that, and then I had also showcased. I didn't get anything from that. It was very, I don't know, it was a wonderful news after a very bizarre time to graduate theater school, and in life as a whole. Wonderful news, crazy.
I was just gonna say, all that goes to show if there are any of you that are performers here, there's no one way to do this. There's no one path. There's no, you just have to go with your gut, believe in what you do, what you bring, and if you show up with yourself and fully, like, there are so many paths to this. So, yeah, it's amazing to hear the completely different paths.
Yeah, I think I was bartending when I got the call. I think I was at work, and my agent called me, and she was like, you got it? I was like, cool, I'm sorry, I have a table of 6. And then I was like, I'll be back.
All right, so now, y'all, I loved those answers to that question. I want to know what surprised you about the process. And when I say the process, I mean rehearsal or the performance. What took you by surprise?
I was so nervous. I was like, I can't believe I'm in a show with Vicky Clark that's written by David Lindsay Barron, Janine Tesori. I was so worried that like everyone knew a secret that I didn't know. And when I showed up at rehearsal, I was gonna find that to be true or something. Or that I was somehow not at all equipped for the job. And I think something that took me by surprise in a great way was that everyone on the team of our show is so wonderful. They're so giving, they're so generous with us in the room to make mistakes and learn from them. And yeah, I think I was just surprised that there was really nothing to be scared of at all.
To add on to that, it was just very collaborative, and it was very free, and we had freedom to explore our characters because everyone's creating at the same time. So that I gave me comfort. I don't know if it gave you guys comfort, but it gave me comfort to keep going with the character choices that I made, and I guess it worked out.
Yeah, I was personally terrified because when I was in the Donna Summer Tour, I personally had a terrible experience. And I was in a really bad mental health rut, and I left, when the show got shut down, I was kind of like, do I want to do this anymore? Was this just, is this what it's always going to be like, or is this just one bad production? Like, I wasn't sure. So when I got this role, I was very excited because I was working with, all these great names, all these great people. I did have a lot of comfort in the fact that I knew Nina going into it. That helped a lot. But yeah, it was hard. I was very scared. I was very scared because I didn't know if I was going to walk into the rehearsal room or be in the rehearsal space and not feel that kind of love that I felt for theater again, that I had felt like I lost when I was on tour. So I was very happily surprised to be so supported and so cared about by everybody in the cast. And in the crew. I mean, it is really such a small kind of, crew that we got going on, but I really felt safe in a way that I had not felt safe in the theater world for quite some time. So I was very happy that this show really ignited my, oh yeah, no, I want to do this, and I do want to do this for the rest of my life, and it's gonna be fine. So. Thanks, guys, for making me love theater again.
Right.
How about you, Danny?
Well, I was thinking about a story that I'll tell really quickly, because I hear you guys talking about imposter syndrome, really. That fear that when you're in a new environment that you don't belong there. And related to Broadway debuts, the story that comes to mind for me is I made my Broadway debut many moons ago with Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson. And the night before we started rehearsal, the Broadway rehearsal, I had a dream, and Alex Timbers was the director and writer of that, and the late, great Michael Friedman was the composer, just a shout out to him real quick. And my dream consisted of showing up at rehearsal, and suddenly Ben Walker, who was playing Andrew Jackson, had been replaced by Sutton Foster. And I was very confused, and I was like, wait, why? And I was like whispering to people, like, why is Sutton Foster playing Andrew Jackson now? This makes no sense, you know what I mean? Like, how is this gonna happen? And then I open my script and it's all different. Like every word is different, every song is different. And I'm like, this isn't the show I plan to do. I don't have anything prepared. What am I gonna do? So I go up to Alex Timbers and I say, you know, it's all different. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And he looks at me very calm and he says, do what you are here to do. And I said, but I don't know what I'm here to do. And he said, do what you are here to do. So I had this very anxious feeling, and look, I felt like an imposter choreographing forever because I trained as an actor, right? So like every time I walked in to be a choreographer, I was like, somebody's just gonna turn around and be like, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? And I'm gonna be like, yeah, you caught me, you know? So anyway, that's my little story about that. So now my next question. Friends, because it's not about me, it's about you. My question is, what part of the show, when you think about performing it again, what is the part of the show that your mind immediately drops into?
The second Uno scene. This is back there.
What's
The second Uno scene. I don't want to go. The second Uno scene. The Uno card game scene. That one's my favorite because I think that's when you see the shift in where the show is going. And it's really powerful and it's really staged very well. Thank you. It was and yeah, I don't even know how to explain it without spoiling it because it's just such a great moment in the
No
show.
spoilers?
No spoilers.
Two Uno scenes, both take place in the library, okay?
That's all you get.
I mean, I think there's been enough press about it, we can talk about it. During rehearsals, we weren't allowed to speak of it, but there's ice skating in our show. And for the off-Broadway run, we all had ice skating lessons for a week. And I am a klutz, okay? I have sprained both of my ankles so many times since I was a teenager. I fall all the time. It's truly an art form. And I was like, oh, this spells disaster. I'm so worried about this. And I had a good 2 days of effort. And then I get an email at the end of the second day from the director saying, maybe we don't have you skate. And I was like, maybe that's a great plan. And so, we wrote it in that my character's been banned from the ice. It was a great workaround. But guess what, friends? I got an email saying we all have skating lessons again. So that's what I'm a little worried about. Who knows what that will be? So that's what makes me think, what
We'll talk
will
about that
Broadway be?
backstage, babe.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that backstage.
So
Let's
that's
not
what-
air the laundry out.
That's the first thought in my head. What will that be?
Gonna nail it. Okay, I have really missed hearing Vicky sing. Can I say the title of the song? Okay, got it. Then I'm like, is that the Three Wishes? Is the name of the song? Yeah? Yeah.
Make a wish.
Oh my gosh! Okay, it's been a couple months. There's just something about hearing Vicky's voice float through the speaker, singing that song. And I have so many times over the past several months been like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait until every night I'm hearing her sing that again because it's beyond gorgeous.
I'll say my favorite song. My favorite song is Father Time, sung by Kimberly's mom, played by Ali Mwazi. I think that song means a lot to me, and it's a good song, so it's my favorite.
Great. Any other moments, y'all? You want to drop in on? You want to talk?
I've thought a lot about the ice skating as well.
Oh, I like our routine that we do with the pitch pipe. That's fun. That's just, it gets a laugh every time. It's hilarious. And the way that we do it is always really funny, especially if somebody messes up.
I'm really excited to be together with everyone again on stage. We have such an unbelievable cast and an unbelievable community of actors that we get to do this show with. So I guess, yeah, when I think about the fall, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so amazing to be on stage with everyone again. Yeah, anytime that we all get to be on stage together, which is rare, but when it does happen, it's really thrilling. So I guess, yeah, the ice skating scene, we're all in it together. Yeah.
Anybody else? No? All right. So now what I want to do is I want to take some Polaroids really quickly, if you'll allow me, okay? And the first one I want to take is a selfie Polaroid with us in the audience.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay? Yeah, and then you guys are gonna ask us some questions, okay? So be thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Can everybody stand up? Can we get in here?
Try to get in the shot.
Everyone give us a giant, beautiful smile from your masks. Oh, okay. We're gonna see.
What if I was not in it? Wouldn't that be better? No. Okay, fine. Ready? Like this?
Yeah.
We did it.
Yay! I want to see what that looks like.
Now, friends, if you have any questions for us about Kimberly Akimbo, about the amazing Janine Tesori or David Lindsay Bear that you want to ask, yeah, go for it. Oh, there's a microphone down here if you want, or I can just repeat. Go for it.
Yay!
Oh, it's really like,
Coming down.
Hi. Hey. I just wanted to say I'm really excited for this show. I was so upset when I missed it at Atlantic, so I was hoping it would transfer. I'm a writer myself, and I was so pissed off that I didn't think of this idea first. So on that note, had you guys been familiar with the play by David Lindsay Bear before you started rehearsals, and how, without spoiling things, how were the changes, if any, were made when adapting it from a straight play to a musical?
I had read it before, but like a few years before, so I reread it. I don't think the script was attached.
For the musical?
You know what was attached for the for the audition? They attached the play. They didn't attach a musical script for me to read. So I was like, I didn't read that. You know what? I'm going to reread it. And I think with anything, especially in a musical, when you add music, you add sincerity to something.
Sure.
And the play can kind of border on absurdism in a lot of ways. And so that was the task, I think, for David and Janine, to find balance in those worlds of like a really sincere song and then an insane situation right after. And that's what I think is like so beautiful in the balance that they found. So those are like the differences that at least I noticed tone-wise. And of course, we added 4 characters. These 3 in our amazing Fernell Hogan that they weren't there before. So then what was really great about that is in adding, you get to see the kid side of Kimberly at school, which is very different than her dynamic with her family, where she kind of steps into a lot of adult roles. And here she gets to be like a kid. So I thought it was like really beautiful how it opened up the story.
Totally. I I was not familiar with the show. I didn't read the script until they sent it to us, and I was like, oh, this is an interesting kind of concept.
Yes.
And then I didn't know where any of our characters fit in. I was like, oh, I guess these guys are new, and so I didn't really figure out what that was going to be until we got in the rehearsal space.
I'll tell you a story that I think you'll find interesting that Janine would tell if she were here, okay? Because she tells it all the time.
I would love to hear it.
Yes, so Janine and David rode Shrek together, of course, and they loved working together, but they were, I'm sorry to speak out of, I hope, don't spread this, but they weren't happy with how that went, though they loved working together, and they wanted to work on another show together. And Janine said, what about one of your plays? And David said, no, I want to work on something new. And she pulled out Kimberly Akimbo and she said, what about this play? And he said, maybe. And so then they started writing stuff. And I think the first song that she wrote was Anagram, actually. I think, but I could be wrong about that, which is a song that they sing in the library when she meets her friend Seth for the first time. And it's one of my favorite shows. My favorite songs in the show.
Stunning.
I find the play to be very, very different than the musical, actually. Structurally, the scenes that occur, they really took the same idea and the kind of same forward plot, and many of the details are different. So I find it to be very, very different in many ways.
Interesting. Well, I'm very excited. Break a leg, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, who else?
My pleasure.
Hi. So for the kids, I say, for those, you don't have many memories of the 90s, what was the most shocking thing about about working, like making characters in that time period? Like, was there anything most surprising about the 90s?
That's a very good question.
That's a very good question.
I like the clothes. They're cool.
Sarah Lux, our costume designer, is nailing it.
Sarah Lux is fantastic.
Oh, we are looking
Designer.
cute. We are looking awesome. I think that really, it's actually very hard to conceptualize. I think not having access to cell phones, like in a genuine fashion. I think that it is difficult to really understand that. Even though I was born when people didn't have cell phones. I didn't get a cell phone until high school myself. But I think like really focusing on how that would affect the way that our
Social media.
right, the way that our group communicates and like
We communicate if we were, in person.
Yeah.
So we were together all the time. I guess it kind of reminds me of like when I was younger, you'd like ride your bike to your friend's house. You know that everybody would be at one friend's house when all the bikes are on the front yard. So I feel like that's kind of the dynamic of what we're doing. It's like if we're not in school, we're at show choir practice, or we're at Delia's house or Teresa's house doing show
skating rink.
ice skating in the skating rink. So I think there's a lot more of a sense of community because there's not electronics.
Cool, thanks.
Of course.
Hi. So since the show is about, making the most of your time and not taking for granted what time you're going to have, I was wondering if you knew that tomorrow was going to be your last day on Earth and you had the opportunity to see one more Broadway show. Any show. Could be currently running, could have been closed. What show would you see?
What a query.
What a smarty you are.
It'll be ours. We just do it one more time. No,
Do I want to see a show that I've already seen or a show that I haven't seen but I really wanted to?
Do I want to take a gamble? Yeah,
Can
that's a
I
good question.
say I wish that I saw a specific person?
Yeah.
I guess I wish that I could have seen, was it Tyne Daly as Mama Rose?
Sure.
That I would have loved to have seen Tyne Daly as Mama Rose in Gypsy. That would be great.
Oh, deep cut. Yeah.
I love her.
I would have loved to see Fiddler. I love Fiddler so much. That story always pulls on my heartstrings, so Fiddler.
Oh, Lord. I usually always answer this question like I would have loved to have seen the original cast of Ragtime. And like that album is so iconic that I'm just like, but also like, you know, Angela Lansbury and anything, like, you know, I saw her in Blithe Spirit, but like what her Sweeney Todd live, I've watched the DVD, but or like her doing Mame, that would be amazing. But I feel like I usually answer Ragtime original, yeah.
Oh, I changed my answer. I would like to see Julie Andrews in anything before she lost her voice. Anything. Absolutely anything. I would cry my eyes out.
I would love to see. I have two. It's cheating.
You can do it's
Okay.
the day before, so you could do a matinee. And
Okay, so true. At my matinee, I would love to see Passing Strange at my matinee, and I would love to see in the evening the original cast and production of Sunday in the Park with George. I would love to see Bernadette up there.
That's mine, Nina, Bernie and
Sisters.
Sunday.
And that was Victoria Clark's Broadway debut
Yeah.
at the
Oh.
Booth Theater.
Yes.
Which is where we're going into.
And Bonnie,
she covered in that show. And that was her Broadway debut.
I have to make you feel bad for a little bit because my first Broadway show was the original cast in Ragtime. It was the first Broadway show I ever saw. I came to New York from Indiana. I
everybody
grew up in
witnessed that. That was
rural
really
Indiana. Came to New York for the holidays. Dropped right into Audra McDonald singing "Your Daddy's Hands." Cried, and was like, "This is my life." You know?
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What a treat. Oh my goodness.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
So, some of my favorite shows that have really made an impact on my life have included things like Head Over Heels and Kinky Boots. I was wondering if there was any musical or any show that's really either changed how you thought about things or really made an impact in your life, maybe got you through a hard time.
You know, one of the shows that blew my mind in so many ways was Wonderful Town with Donna Murphy, and I came in on a trip with friends and I saw it. It was just the lushness of it all. This it wasn't that the story did something inside me, but it just, I don't know, it did spark something inside me. And also, honestly, Disaster, the musical, what Jennifer Samar did with comedy and how she played with, my mind was so blown. I saw it 3 times, which is a lot for me. And I couldn't get over how small you could be on a musical theater scale on a Broadway stage and how I've told her this many times. I'm you blew my mind, revolutionized so many things, and playing right now, I don't know if you've seen A Strange Loop, I'm so gutted by truth, the level of truth that can be, the rawness, vulnerability, scariness on a Broadway stage. These are such different shows, and that's why I love theater, because they can awake something else inside of you. Yeah, those are mine.
Weirdly enough, I really loved Matilda. I really loved Matilda when I saw it with my mom, and it was one of the first really big shows that me and her really bonded over. So that one holds a special place in my heart. And also, Porgy and Bess is my all-time favorite show. I find it incredible that America's first opera was about Black people. And had Black faces on stage with only about 2 white people that were not important. And I think, for a show to come out in the 1930s where it was $3 for a ticket, and had everybody shocked that the first, opera, which is, considered a huge luxury, a huge privilege, something of wealth, was a Black story. And about Catfish Row, and it's not a trauma story per se. It's just an actual story, here's a story, here's a plot line, and that's it. And I really appreciate, such a very early piece of work that honored the Black community so well. And those are my 2.
It was what show got you through a difficult time in your life, right?
What was that?
Yeah, what show meant something to you? What spoke to you? What saved you? Yeah.
I've seen 2 Broadway shows. Like, I've seen Dear Evan Hansen and Lion King.
Wicked, we saw Wicked.
We saw Wicked.
We saw Wicked.
We saw Wicked
together.
That's 3.
There you go.
But I'd have to go back to Fiddler. I'd say I saw it like I didn't see it on Broadway, but I think the combination of like World War II having an effect on a certain group of people, it means a lot to me because I relate to it because I was born in Egypt and I left at a time of revolution, at a time of it was a tough time for everyone. And so I relate to that show a lot, and I relate to the people in that show. And it shows me that everyone faces difficult things in their life, difficult life-changing things, but it's up to us to choose our future. So.
I love Fun Home. I love Fun Home. I saw the national tour of Fun Home when I was a freshman in college. And I remember, oh my gosh, I feel emotional, that's embarrassing. I remember that it was at a time when I saw it and I was like, oh, everyone's family is a mess, you know? And you can make I don't know, Fun Home is what Bonnie said, it's so truthful about a lot of very, very difficult, complicated things and about the connection between parents and children in a way that really spoke to me at the time, and it felt very honest, and I cried through the last like 35 minutes of Fun Home. I hadn't seen anything like it. I also have to give a shout out to Wicked, because in my youth, I didn't see Wicked for a very long time, but I listened to Wicked over and over and over and over, and I watched the videos, I watched the compilations, the Elphabas and the Glindas. I don't have a favorite, but Wicked like sparked such a joy in me, in a love for musical theater. Yeah.
I think that there are a handful of shows that I'd say would have saved me over the course of my life, and I'll just mention them very quickly. The first one was in high school, and it was Pippin, just because I loved it, and I felt so seen by it. The next one was in New York, when I was like, why am I even doing this? And then I got the job doing Fun Home, and I was like, oh my God, this is why I'm doing it. And then the third one is this show, because I was in a really, really dark place during the pandemic when it first started. And we were meant to do this summer of 2020. And we didn't end up doing it until fall of 2021. And the way that I like just having this and diving into that story and working on it over the course of that time really just like gave me something to hold on to. And it gave me, tethered me to something, so I didn't just float off into the distance.
I'd definitely say The Wiz. The Wiz definitely spoke to me. I mean, for obvious reasons, but I love The Wiz. I find it incredible that we got, the incredible Quincy Jones in order to do the soundtrack for the movie, and I think that's a huge name that get involved just in Broadway to begin with, and it has not had a revival yet since the 70s, which is insane to me because it's such a great show. We have Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, Stephanie Mills, like so many great legendary names for that show, and I'm waiting for it to come back.
I think the person who directed that also costume designed it, which is a very rare thing. You need to look that up. I forget what his name is, but he's a super interesting guy. Who's next? Thank you.
I'm an Atlantic subscriber, so I was lucky enough to see your show, and I'm seeing the Bedwetter tonight, so I wondered if there's anything special about that space, the neighborhood, backstage, that you really loved about being at Atlantic.
The backstage crew. The backstage crew is the best people in the entire world. The mic people, the lighting, the wigs, wardrobe, all of them. Oh my goodness, it was, the moment I heard that we were going to Broadway, I was like, can we take them too? They were, everybody that works at the Atlantic, from the administration to the techies in the back, everybody is just so kind and friendly and open to conversations. It's not like, you know, there wasn't really kind of, you know, a clique of, oh, the theater kids and then the techies. Like, it wasn't like one of those, you know, high school dynamics. It was probably the first, I think, production I've been in where everybody from top to bottom was so like connected and in with each other. And I think that this show and its message did that. I think this message brought us all together.
Well, what's great about the Atlantic is that space is so wonderful, and it's like you can really feel everybody in the house. I love an intimate space. Luckily, the booth is also like an intimate space for a Broadway theater, but I will miss that, like, just we're all really in this together, including in every aspect, you know, like our dressing rooms, you're upstairs, there's just a curtain separating at the entire cast. And also, you know, wigs is on the other side of that, and on the other side of that curtain is the band. And so we are truly all in one room. And once we get to the booth and we all have different dressing rooms, it'll be a little weird. But it was a really beautiful way to jump back into the theater in a space like that. And I love Chelsea. It's great down there, yeah.
Really felt like a team sport at the Atlantic. In a way that was so meaningful to me, and I will miss at the booth. It's gonna be great at the booth, but we were in, there wasn't like a curtain separating like us separately, like we were all in the same room. Yeah. We were in one room, inches from one another, and yeah, but then when you were getting ready to step on stage, you had already been with everyone for at least a half an hour, and usually much more than that, and so it made it very easy to hold each other up once we actually started doing the show. Yeah.
And just to add on to that, the Atlantic knows how to pick their people, and the foundation's in the people.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I had always had the dream of working at the Atlantic too, which I'd never done.
Me too.
Yeah, so amazing to have done that. Friends,
Lovely.
I think we're wrapping up the end of our time here, all right? We want to thank you for coming. We also want to implore you to tell all your friends to see Kimberly Akimbo!
It's a good show.
You'll laugh, you'll feel wonderful things.
Yes, I love
Surely
it
will.
so much. I bet you'll love it too, and I bet everyone will love it. Yeah, thanks Nina, thanks Michael, thanks Olivia, thanks Bonnie.
Thank you, Danny.
Danny.
Yay.